My name is Calista. I'm 32 years old, and I was born in Austin, Texas, into a family that looked perfect from the outside. A 2-story home with a picket fence, weekend barbecues, and framed family photos in every hallway. People used to say, "What a lovely home. You're lucky." But what they didn't see was how early expectation turned into disappointment. My father, a mechanical engineer obsessed with logic and precision, had always dreamed of raising a brilliant daughter. My mother once told a neighbor she had read over 30 parenting books before I was even born. I was that child, planned, watched, and measured like a lifelong experiment. But by the time I was 3 and couldn't read full sentences, I saw the disappointment settle into their faces. And then came Amelia, the miracle child, the prodigy. She had flashcards before her first birthday, a nanny fluent in French, and a full-time tutor before age 4. Meanwhile, I was handed old math workbooks and told to try harder. I used to think I was just slower, but over time I realized I wasn't broken. I was simply never given the same chance to shine, and that realization would become the quiet fire that fueled everything I did next. By the time I was 10, the house no longer felt like mine. Every hallway echoed with Amelia's piano practice, her tutor's voice, or praise from my parents. She was already being groomed for Ivy League dreams, while I quietly handled my own homework in the corner. But the breaking point came when I was 12. I had always had the upstairs bedroom, the one with soft morning light and a view of the backyard oak tree. It was my safe space, my one comfort. Until one afternoon, Amelia barged in. "Mom says I need this room now," she said. "I need more space for my learning zone." I thought it was a joke. But when I came home from school the next day, my things had been moved. My desk, my bed, even my drawings, gone. The room now had her name on the door. A white desk, new shelves, a rug with stars and constellations. My new room? Downstairs, next to the laundry, cramped, dim, and cold. I stood in the doorway and asked Mom, "Why would you do this?" Without turning around, she replied, "You're older now. Learn to make room for those who need it more." And that's when I knew. I'd never be seen in this house. By senior year of high school, I had stopped expecting anything. Amelia was now at an elite private academy, chauffeured in a luxury SUV, with a weekly math coach and violin instructor. Meanwhile, I walked to public school, balanced part-time jobs, and managed everything alone. I didn't resent it. Not yet. But that changed one evening during dinner. My grandparents, George and Merrill, had come over, one of the rare moments when I felt visible. As we ate, Amelia went on about her summer program plans at Yale. Everyone listened. Then Grandma turned to me, smiling. "And what about you, Calista? Any college news?" My heart fluttered. "I just got accepted into the business program at UT Austin, with a partial scholarship. If I get more aid, I can start in the fall." Before I could finish, my mother set down her fork. "Calista," she said sharply, "we've talked. We can't help with your tuition." I blinked. "What?" Dad jumped in. "We need to prioritize Amelia. She has a chance most kids don't." And just like that, I realized. The savings they promised for both of us were never meant for me. The silence at the table was suffocating, until Grandma said softly, "This isn't fair." And it ends here. Later that evening, while I washed dishes alone in the kitchen, Grandma Merrill walked in and quietly placed a folded napkin beside me. Inside was a handwritten note. "We'll cover your tuition. No loans, no debt, just your future." I froze, hands wet, heart pounding. "Grandma, it's too much." She smiled. "It's not too much when it's for someone who's done everything on her own. You don't need to compete to shine, Calista. You already do." I stared at her, speechless. It was the first time someone in my family truly saw me, not as a shadow, not as the other daughter, but as someone worth investing in. That fall, I moved into the dorms at UT Austin with a single suitcase and a heart full of silent hope. Mom gave me a half hug at the door and said, "Be practical. Don't expect anything." Amelia didn't even look up from her phone. But I didn't cry. I didn't beg. Because for the first time in my life, I was walking towards something, on my own terms, a new school, a clean start, and a future that didn't require anyone's permission to begin. That was the moment the fire in me became something real. College was nothing like home. For the first time, I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I was just Calista, a student, a thinker, a quiet strategist with something to prove. I studied late into the night in crowded libraries, worked part-time at a downtown cafe, and spent hours absorbing everything I could about behavioral economics and investment strategy. I didn't have extra tutors or shiny gadgets, but I had hunger, and that hunger turned into skill. In my junior year, one of my professors, Dr. Lang, noticed my analysis paper on consumer behavior. He recommended me for a competitive summer internship at a top investment firm in Dallas, Harrington & Wells Capital. I still remember the interview: glass walls, 3 executives, and one question: what makes a smart investment? I answered without flinching. Understanding the numbers is important, but understanding why people move those numbers? That's where the real insight is. They hired me on the spot. By the end of that summer, I had uncovered a potential $25 million risk in a client's portfolio, something even senior analysts missed. For the first time, someone at the table looked at me not with skepticism, but with respect, and it felt like a door was finally opening, one I had built myself. After graduation, I joined Harrington & Wells full-time as a junior analyst. I worked harder than I ever had. Weekends, holidays, late nights, all fueled by one thought: earn your place. But I didn't just want to analyze patterns. I wanted to predict them. So, after hours, I started building a personal project, a dynamic risk model that blended data with human psychology, social trends, and market emotion. I called it Helix. Most in the industry dismissed that kind of model as too soft, too human. Until Helix correctly forecasted a 3-week market dip tied to consumer sentiment, 2 weeks before it happened. Suddenly, I wasn't just the quiet one with spreadsheets. I was the strategist who saw things no one else did. The firm took notice. Helix became part of our core system, and within a year, we outperformed 2 of our biggest competitors. I was promoted, again. But it wasn't the title that meant the most. It was the moment I walked into the boardroom, and no one asked, "Whose assistant are you?" They already knew. I was the woman with the insight. The daughter who was never expected to lead, now becoming the one they turned to. And I was just getting started. At 30, I was promoted to Chief Strategy Officer, the youngest in firm history. It wasn't just a promotion, it was validation. To honor the milestone, I wanted something small: a dinner with friends, my grandparents, and a few mentors. But when I mentioned it to my mother, she lit up. "You should let us host it," she said. "It'll be more intimate, family-focused." I hesitated, but a part of me hoped maybe this time things would be different. So I sent her $3,500 for catering and decor and didn't ask questions. When I arrived at the house in Austin, it was stunning. Candlelit tables, catered dishes, flowers everywhere. My grandparents smiled from across the room, proud and glowing. And then, my mother stood up, beaming. "Dear family," she announced, "we're here tonight not just to reconnect, but to celebrate something truly special. Amelia is engaged." Applause, laughter, champagne. I stood frozen, still holding the glass I was about to raise for myself. No one had mentioned my promotion. Not once. Not even the event I paid for. I turned to my mother, who met my gaze for a second, and looked away. And just like that, I was erased from my own celebration. Again. I stood there, champagne glass in hand, heart pounding. A part of me wanted to walk out, to let them enjoy their show. But the other part, the one that had endured a lifetime of silence, refused. I stepped forward, clinked my glass gently, and said, "Excuse me, may I say something?" The room fell quiet. This evening was meant to celebrate a major milestone in my life. 2 weeks ago, I was named Chief Strategy Officer at Harrington and Wells Capital, one of the youngest in the firm's history. I paused, letting that land. I sent the money for this event. My mother agreed to organize it. At no point did she tell me it would be anything else. A murmur rippled through the guests. Amelia's fiancé looked confused. "You told me this was your sister's celebration," he said. "I was going to tell you after," Amelia mumbled. He stepped back, voice low. "You used your sister's success as a backdrop for your own announcement?" He walked out. Amelia chased him, and I turned to my parents. "Once again," I said calmly, "you made it clear where I stand." I looked at my grandparents, still standing by the bar, silent but steady, and I knew they were the only ones who never tried to dim my light. My father stepped forward, jaw clenched. "If you walk out of this house right now," he said, voice low and sharp, "don't expect anything from this family. No inheritance, no support, nothing." I opened my mouth to respond, but I didn't have to. Grandpa George stepped into the center of the room. "If that's how you feel," he said clearly, "then I think it's time we say something too." Grandma Merrill joined him, her hand resting gently on his arm. "We changed our will 3 months ago," she said. "Everything, our house, our savings, our investments, goes to Calista." A collective gasp rippled through the room. My mother looked stunned. "What? Why?" "Because she never asked for it," Grandma said. "She never demanded attention or money. She built her life through grit, not manipulation." Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. "I don't need it," I whispered. "We know," Grandpa said. "That's why you deserve it." Amelia, halfway up the stairs, turned around, eyes wide and glossy. For once, she had no comeback, no defense, just silence. I stood still, overwhelmed, but steady. It wasn't about the inheritance. It was the moment the truth was finally said out loud, in front of everyone. And that was more valuable than anything. I didn't need applause. I didn't need anyone to take my side. I simply picked up my purse, looked one last time at the home that never felt like mine, and walked toward the door. No one followed. No one stopped me. The only sound was my heels on the tile and the rustling of spring leaves outside. As I stepped into the cool night air, Grandma Merrill caught up and gently took my hand. "You don't have to fight to be seen anymore," she whispered. "Now you just get to be." Tears slipped down my cheeks, quiet, not from sadness, but from release. The door shut behind me, not with drama, not with slamming rage, but with finality. That night, I didn't go back to my apartment in Dallas. I drove straight to my grandparents' house, our sanctuary of warmth and soft lights. Over tea and laughter, we didn't talk about what happened. We talked about the future. 3 years later, I became CEO of Harrington and Wells. Not because of my name, not because of a family legacy, but because I never stopped showing up for myself. And when the world didn't open a door for me, I built one. I haven't spoken to my parents or Amelia since that night. Sometimes my grandparents mention they've asked about me through distant friends. But I don't feel anger anymore. Only clarity. Some relationships aren't meant to be kept, especially when they're built on control, comparison, and denial. Every Sunday, I visit Grandma and Grandpa. We sip tea, flip through old photo albums, and laugh about things I once cried over. One time I asked them, "Do you ever regret leaving everything to me?" Grandma just smiled. "We gave it to the one who never needed it to succeed. That's how we knew you'd honor it." Their love wasn't loud. It was steady. And in the end, it was their belief in me that helped me believe in myself. So, if you've ever been the one overlooked, underestimated, or left out, let Calista's story remind you. Your worth was never up for their vote. And your voice? It's stronger than silence. What do you think? Was Calista right to walk away from her family? Or was there something still worth saving? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more real, powerful stories about identity, healing, and choosing yourself. You are not alone, and you never were.